saw, dudes, everyone thought Siege was dead until Jynxzi showed up. And some people believe that it is for the worse, not for the better. Now, it would appear I've gone and done my favorite thing, the straw man argument, or I guess in this case, the straw teenager argument. Because I really don't think of people in their early 30s getting mad about Jynxzi unless they're super terminally online, which I guess there are a few of those guys. I assure you once again that this is not a straw man, because what prompted this video in the first place was a Reddit post I found about a year ago that was relatively popular. The problem doesn't necessarily seem to be with Jynxzi himself, though. The OP points out that they're not a fan of Jynxzi's act, but they don't dislike the guy personally. For those who are unaware, Jynxzi's act is, well...
So, I'm not a physics major, but I know that a grenade this big is not getting through a hole this big. What the So we're in copper. You're gonna throw another one. You're gonna throw another one? Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I never snitch on you, daddy.
Here's some YouTube thumbnails. I guess that kind of gives you the idea. He's a gamer bro, for the bros. He's unhinged and off the wall and serves as a mascot for the middle school to early college aged male demographic of Siege players who say sheesh and bruh. I'm most familiar with him through his admittedly pretty smart content strategy of reacting to any wide manner of Rainbow Six Siege clips. His clip of the day reactions. His suggestions to Siege players to be aware of enemy combatants, or suggestions to bring a Thatcher instead of a Finka, or perhaps not bringing a Finka at all. I'm white, so I can't roll my R's worth of shit.
You're in a 4v1 scenario, the plant's down, and you are strolling through the hallways. Run!
I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I understand that some of this is played up a little bit for the camera. I'm pretty sure most of the dudes who watch him understand that too, unless they're 14, which it may very well be the case that they don't. But that's because they're 14, not because they're stupid. This just so happens to be the demographic that Siege players have been arguing with just about since the game came out in 2015. Supposedly in a galaxy far, far away, and we've been over this a million times, but at one point this game was not for children, and it was a real man's game with a population of 28 people. Regardless, a small portion of 16-year-olds quickly realized that cop LARPing with 4 people in front of a doorway is fucking stupid and C4'd them, and those 4 guys probably never played the game again. Ever since then, the game has had a crisis of identity that's lasted well into the 10-year mark. However, Jynxzi and Jynxzi-esque young men and boys, as a matter of fact, won the Siege culture war, not the tactical shooter guys, like Jynxzi. No offense to Jynxzi. I do enjoy his content from time to time. I only brought him up as a comparison point. So yeah, long story short, I'm glad this game was able to command some kind of market attention eventually, whether it came from Jynxzi or somebody else. On a practical level, it's good for me so that I don't fall into financial ruin after realizing my college degree was essentially a paper towel. And on an emotional level, I love this game. I love Siege. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're so fucking old! I remember an old content creator. His name was Serenity17. I would watch his videos every day. Okay, Grandma, let's get you to bed. Regardless, back to Jynxzi. People have made it clear that they either love him or they hate him. And I get why. Because he's popular, and that's how that works. It's really more of a statistical argument, a social science argument than anything. I'm not a fucking rocket scientist for pointing that one out. But at a certain point, even before working on this video, I was curious about the guy. So I went through some of his content just to familiarize myself with it for the purpose of the video. And, you know, I wasn't really sure what the hype was about either. I mean, yeah, I came across his clips from time to time. It just seemed like he screamed a lot, which that's just gamer bro humor. That was around when I was a kid. And I'm not knocking the guy and putting him down a level by saying he's a content creator for kids. It's very clear that he doesn't make a concerted effort to be a content creator for kids. But I grew up playing Halo 3 on Xbox Live, even though that game was rated M, and I was not 17. Teenage gamers, especially terminally online ones, never paid attention to any of that shit. And I know you didn't either. I, too, was a connoisseur of loud and spontaneous equals funny. I remember being a middle schooler. Epic bacon moment? My face when no bacon Okay. But like, there had to be something to this guy, right? Like, you don't get that many views without doing something. So as you do, I came across a clip and...
Why are you swinging? Back down and give up. That was ass!
I laughed. Funny. Laughed. The other thing I noticed about this guy's content is that it took the game seriously, but it didn't take itself seriously. And I don't know if that makes sense when it's articulated, but basically he gives play-by-play feedback for people who submit clips to his stream. Thing is, for every moment like this, there's genuinely good advice. Like, don't lean spam, because it's fucking stupid.
Negatively affecting your aim. That's all you're doing. You're negatively affecting your aim. That's it. There's no point of lean spamming. It doesn't help with your movement. You should only lean spam when you're quick peeking a doorway, not when you're standing in the center of a doorway.
Don't peek a doorway without aiming. That's dumb.
1v2 scenario, your bot all right, just stop. We should never enter a room like this under any circumstance.
He doesn't let players off the hook if they clutched up the round. If they played it like shit, he just points out that they played it like shit. He's not mean about it. Well, you know, to a point. And I guess that's all relative. But for the most part, like, it's good advice. Something else that Jynxzi did a big thing with was leveraging the console community in a way that didn't really exist previously, and giving people that were interested in the competitive side of Siege an opportunity to make a name for themselves and really immerse themselves in the authentic version of Siege, as far as I could tell. Every once in a while, there's a kid who just spawns into the world that's just designed to be really fucking good at a video game. You get your stompins, you get your donks. They are rare, but they do happen, and they kick the shit out of people that are twice their age with twice the amount of experience. Talent just happens sometimes because humans are going to human, and brains are going to brain differently from human to human. Kids like Stompin can thank Jynxzi for having tournaments to play in that got his name on the map. I had the opportunity to meet Skite, who plays in some of Jynxzi's console tournaments, not too recently in Atlanta. He's a cool dude. I got along with him. I've never run into any of these people in person and thought, ugh, what a gamer douchebag. Although I remember being in that kind of sphere of gamer populism on 4chan when I was in my early 20s, and I know how people would respond to guys like Jynxzi. I know how they respond now. The lean spam thing is interesting though, because I think some of those gamer populists would assume Jynxzi is the one spreading the lean spam mind virus. In reality, it would appear that Jynxzi is actually the one trying to prevent the spread of the lean spam mind virus. Because lean spamming, as it turns out, if you're treating the game like a sport, if you're treating it in a competitive context, is stupid. That era of bolo leaning is gone. You only want to do that when you're going for a pixel angle or you're on a door frame. The best players in the world will peak in one fluid motion in a way that looks bad to a moron, but if you get the pick, it doesn't matter. And I know that you guys as Siege players have encountered this before. You've seen the guy who's in a 1vx situation who just seems to, like, it almost feels like they're doing it on purpose. It almost feels like they're doing all these, like, superfluous and unnecessary movements to, like, make the 1vx feel more intense. And so if they, like, lose, and they lose while looking cool, it's like, okay. And then on the flip end, you end up in the 1vx situation, and then because you're not lean spamming like a moron, they lose confidence in you and start backseating. Keep it simple, stupid. Jynxzi makes light of people's honest mistakes with this game in a way that makes people feel seen and heard. Even it's to explain how dogshit their aim is, or how cracked their aim is. I think that's just what makes a content creator pop off on any given platform, is authenticity. But let's get back to it. I mean, like any other famous person, he invites a certain degree of criticism. Primarily because people don't like the Zoomers that are playing the game. And this can be interpreted as, you know, kind of old man yells at cloud. But some people really don't like this guy, to a point at which, you know, they think he's actually bad for the game. At least that's the impression that I get from r/Rainbow6. Now, I don't need to defend Jynxzi. I mean, he's big enough to fight his own battles. But the claim I read here on Reddit which I'm assuming is where the website gets its name from, said quite plainly that Jynxzi kids are ruining the game, hence the title of this video. The post goes on to explain annoyances with Jynxzi kidisms like the "so wearing copper" thing, which, like, okay, I mean, I get the whole like brain rot voice line spam thing, but like, that's just the internet. Where have you been for the past 20 years? Or even the past week? Chicken jockey. Did everybody forget they were 14 playing Halo? I don't know if anybody remembers that. They act like they weren't. But I said a lot of cringe shit when I was 14 too. What's the clear and obvious solution here? I mean, you can't make teenagers not play a shoot-bang video game. When you were a teenager, you played Modern Warfare 2. We had our equivalent of this argument in the political space around the Bush years with the whole video games cause violence thing, and had this whole argument about whether or not kids should play Call of Duty. Spoiler alert, to ensure teenagers can't play an M-rated game has never happened in the history of gaming. Did my mom hate Red Dead Redemption because she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so violent"? Yeah, she didn't let me buy Red Dead Redemption. But my dad let me rent it from the video store because he thought that shit was cool as fuck. Good luck with any of these arguments. I mean, I remember having them years ago and not much has changed. Siege has a rich breadth of mechanics that people find interesting, and the gunplay feels satisfying. As far as I can tell, Jynxzi's presence is an inevitability. Truly enough, when I ran a community poll discussing what you guys think of him, somebody brought up that it reminded them of playing Halo when they were a kid. Also, somebody else rightfully pointed out that we were all Jynxzi kids at one point. I think this is a small minority of people who really don't like the guy and just, resent his presence. As evidenced, at least in my community. In this poll I ran, it appears the overwhelming consensus is that we are in copper, which checks out. Now, some people feel the other way around, in an albeit nuanced way. They claim Jynxzi alone saved Siege. Siege was about to fall off a cliff. I disagree. I think the game would have lived without Jynxzi, but it certainly fucking benefits from his presence, at least popularity-wise. The general vibe about my community is that he's fine. Annoying teenagers are annoying, but you were also once an annoying teenager. I'm glad my community has this level of maturity, and it reflects my stance too. You were once a Jynxzi kid playing Battlefield 3 on a CRT TV. Give it a rest. The big wheel of Siege in the sky keeps on turning, and all publicity is good publicity. I'm glad my community isn't crashing out on these kids, because in my honest estimation, there really isn't anything to crash out about. It's kind of like getting mad at Shroud fans in 2017. These kids are developing formative memories that are going to stick with them for a long time, and this era of Siege is something they will look back fondly on. I think the only content creator I really look back on gaming-wise with the same level of I watch their shit every single day was Serenity17, who's long gone by now. Even Basically Homeless chimed in his last ever uploaded YouTube video asking him to stop selling car insurance and come back. If Serenity started uploading again, I'd go back to religiously watching those videos, I'm sure. I remember playing ranked with him a long time ago and getting along with him, but I can relate to everything the guys seem to walk away from content creation, allegedly, for. This job can be mentally taxing. If you're not a person like Jynxzi, if that is just not who you are, you kind of end up getting put at an audience disadvantage. Because one thing that's true about content online is that people tend to gravitate towards content creators who are kind of like them, and they tend not to gravitate towards people who hate their fucking job. There's a reason that my channel is becoming an umbrella for the LGBT community in Siege, because, fucking duh. But Serenity never struck me as a Jynxzi-esque guy. He was a 20-something dude from Quebec who was good at Siege. But when he tried to do other kinds of content, he quickly realized what was happening to the YouTube algorithm circa 2017. Something that we all encountered one way or another. And that's that social media companies are trying to rot your fucking brain with algorithmic entertainment. Subscriber traffic doesn't really mean anything anymore. Subscribers as they exist on YouTube are just a vanity metric at this point. If you don't enjoy your job as a content creator, people will know, and that creates a frustrating spiral. The worse your channel is doing, the more pissed off you get, the more people feel like leaving because they don't want to be bummed out. And it's nobody's fault in particular. It's just kind of how the algorithmic cookie crumbles. Jynxzi has created the strongest algorithmic cookie in Siege history. Probably gaming history, if you don't include guys like Shroud or XQC or Lyric. His genuine passion for the game reflects in everything he does. He's not interested in rage baiting about how the game is dying because of Pizza Mozzie or something. Serenity eventually wanted to at least try making content for different games. When he realized just how deep the algorithmic rabbit hole went, or at least I'm speculating, and it put him in a shitty mood, so he walked away for good. And I don't blame him. Last time I heard, he was working a blue-collar job, and he seemed like the kind of person who would enjoy doing that and be happy doing that. He struck me as relatively stoic, uncomplaining, somebody who never did YouTube for the money, somebody who did it because he enjoyed it. And I think Jynxzi genuinely loves this game, and he loves his job. He represents something a lot of the gamer populists hate. A millionaire who remained honest and true to who he was well after the success that set him up for life. To the gamer populist, the millionaire content creator's prerequisites must include faults in their character. They have to be a bad person, inherently dishonest, a compulsive liar. They must have a contempt for working class people. They must have an entitlement to being famous on YouTube. Jynxzi has never struck me in any of those ways. In reality, none of the people I've run into at any of these events strike me that way. Jynxzi reminds me of how live streaming used to be many years ago on Justin.tv. A bare bones, stripped to the essence conversation with the people who were bored or curious enough to watch you play or talk about a video game. It's hard to say whether or not Siege would have remained intact without Jynxzi's help. I think Jynxzi has been instrumental in keeping the game to a relative degree of popularity. But I will say that I do appreciate Jynxzi's presence. I should on a practical level for my bottom line, and I also think things could be a hell of a lot worse. As far as brands are concerned, Jynxzi isn't a very corporate package. Sure, he's popularized a lot of the content creator kind of content formats, the 1v1s, the Wheels of Siege, 2v2 every rank, all the personality kind of entertainment packaged sort of content. I don't watch that kind of content. It's not something that particularly interests me, but I don't think it's bad content. I prefer long form content from YouTubers who haven't uploaded in like 6 months and then they just randomly drop a 2 million view bomb out of nowhere before disappearing again. Like Funky. That's that good shit. I will appreciate Jynxzi's ability to communicate competitive skill set items to a part of the community that I can't really communicate to in the same way. Not because of anything other than that. I'm not Jynxzi. I'm Gwen. And as long as guys like Jynxzi are in the scene, I think the result for the game's health is a net positive. Deuces.